Welcome to the Discovery Center of the Southern Tier in lovely Binghamton, New York. Right now, you are inside of a honeybee hive. You probably have many questions about the honeybee, like how do honeybees live? How do they make their delicious honey? And should you be afraid of honeybees? Let's go on a journey around the Southern Tier to find out what's the buzz. There are many thousand different species of bees, but the most famous bee is the honeybee. Honeybees live with thousands and thousands of other bees in a beehive. Honeybees can live in trees, old barns, or in hives made by beekeepers. Beekeepers take care of bees so they can harvest the bee's honey that you love to eat. Honeybees have been around for a very, very long time. We know that the ancient Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians were keeping bees and harvesting their honey as long as 3,000 years ago. There are 4 stages in a honeybee's life. All bees start out life as an egg. The queen bee lays the egg, and a few days later, that egg hatches into a larva. The worker bees will feed the larva for a few days, and then they seal the cell that the larva lives in. The larva then spins a cocoon around its body. Inside that cocoon, the larva is busy growing into a bee. The larva grows wings, eyes, and legs. Finally, after the larva has finished growing, it chews its way through the waxy cap of its cell and emerges as a full-grown bee. Life as we know it probably wouldn't exist without the honeybee. They are part of a very important group of insects called pollinators. Many of the fruits and vegetables we eat today wouldn't grow if it weren't for pollinators like bees. In the springtime, plants grow flowers. Then, insects like the honeybee will fly from flower to flower, drinking their nectar and also collecting little bits of pollen on their hairy legs. As they fly to different flowers, those bits of pollen fall off and mingle with the pollen of a different flower. This process is called pollination and turns the flowers into fruit. So the next time you're eating an apple, or maybe snacking on some strawberries, thank the bees. Honeybees have stingers on their tails and can hurt if you get stung. But they really don't want to sting you. The bees just want to go about their day, visiting flowers, collecting pollen on their legs, and drinking the nectar that they take back home to the hive to feed to the baby bees. If you see a bee, be quiet and still. You can walk away slowly and leave them alone, or you might even be able to stay very still and watch them collecting pollen. But whatever you do, don't swat at them or wave your arms at them. That can make them grumpy and, oops, here comes that stinger. Let's buzz across town and visit a local beekeeper in Kirkwood, New York. Sue, what does a beekeeper need to visit a hive?
Well, a beekeeper doesn't need a lot of equipment to visit a hive, but we have the typical equipment here. Probably the most important thing that the beekeeper needs is this tool. It's called a hive tool. They come in many different shapes and sizes, but it's basically to get the boxes apart because sometimes they stick together really well. Another important piece of equipment that a beekeeper uses is called a smoker. And what it does is it produces a big cloud of white smoke. And bees don't talk to each other, they smell to each other. They actually communicate with smell, and when I put that smoke in the beehive, they can't talk to each other anymore. And the reason that is important is so if one gets upset, it can't tell its sisters that it's upset, and that way the hive is much calmer than it would otherwise be. Another important piece of equipment is the bee suit, and it's just like a jacket. It's made out of cotton usually, and it has some kind of hood, which is bee-proof. That's why there are lots of zippers and Velcro and things here. And that makes sure that if a bee does get angry, it can't come in and sting us.
Okay, Sue, I think we're ready to visit the hives. Are you ready to suit up?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. So we're at Sue's apiary. What is an apiary?
An apiary is where a beekeeper keeps their bees.
And what are we going to see today?
We're going to look inside one of the hives.
And what are we going to see when we open them up?
We're going to see frames, and on those frames will be the bees.
How many bees are in a beehive?
In the middle of the summer, a beehive can have 60,000 bees in it.
60,000 bees!
Wow, I know. That's a lot of bees.
And why do they swarm?
Well, that's a matter of reproduction. You say to yourself, well, these bees are reproducing themselves by raising all these baby bees, but the thing they're not doing is creating a new hive when they do that. They're just keeping this one hive going. A swarm is the way that this hive creates another hive.
So it's like making another home.
Yes.
We all love the taste of honey, but do you know how it's made? Honey is made by the honeybee. The worker bee flies out of the hive and finds a field of flowers. They fly from flower to flower and drink up the nectar that each flower produces. They drink it through something called a proboscis, a bee tongue. It's kind of like a straw, and they just suck that nectar right up. When their stomach is full, they fly back to the hive, where some of the other bees take the nectar away from them. Kind of like when your mom or dad comes home from the grocery store and you help them unload the groceries. The bees take the nectar and put it into one of the cells in the honeycomb. Then the bees in the hive flap their wings as hard as they can. This evaporates the rest of the water from the nectar. When the water is evaporated, you have honey. The bees then seal up the cell with more wax, saving the honey for food to eat later. Did you know that you can keep bees in the city? Let's take flight and go visit an urban beekeeper in Binghamton, New York. We are here in the city of Binghamton with Deb Hibbard in her apiary. And Deb, you're an urban beekeeper, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
It means I live in a city and I've got 2 beehives. And I take care of my bees like they were my livestock, sort of.
And how is that different than having bees in the country?
I think you have to be more mindful of neighbors, more considerate about the people that are around you because we are closer together. I think the difference is we can see immediately the benefits of having bees in our neighbors' gardens, in our own gardens. We can see that they really make a difference in their pollination.
So what do your neighbors think of you having these honeybees?
They've been very open. Some of them have been actually happy. Some of them were confused. Some of them were scared. But we brought some of our neighbors over and introduced them to the hives and allayed any fears. When we opened the hives, in the past we had them in the yard, we would let our neighbors know so that there was no concern about anyone getting stung. But they've been pretty cooperative, neighbors and bees.
Now we know that bees need to drink nectar from flowers, and they help pollinate plants when they fly from flower to flower. But how do they find the flowers? They do the waggle dance. When a worker bee finds a big field of flowers, she flies home as fast as she can. When she gets back to the hive, she does a dance in the shape of a figure 8. The dance tells the other bees where to find the field of flowers. A big, big field of flowers can make the bee really excited, and so they dance even faster. If they can get the other bees excited, then off they go to find that field of flowers. Can you do the waggle dance? Make a figure 8 and shake your bottom. Now you know all the buzz about the honeybee. Next time you're outside in the story garden or even in your own backyard, look around carefully for our honeybee friends. Let's buzz on out of here.